Anybody else is inside?
All right, sounds like a plan. Well, that being the case, with notions and ideas afoot, with actions already on the move, I would first like to thank you all again, because I really do look forward to our sessions and our play and finding out what the shelter actually manages to get up to, what situations they manage to overcome, either through luck, skill, or a combination of the two. And I would like to let you all know that this is officially Soup City Sins, Season 6, Episode 3, Small People Always Do. Having survived the outright assault and the unleashed hell of a slew of angry, volatile zealots who happen to be thin bloods, who happen to be dustborn, who call themselves by the title of Children of Dusk, the coterie falls to their various states, Dizzy confirming and connecting with her new ghoul, Lucio reaffirming and reconnecting with his, while Hestia deals with the less than friendly and very forceful police who've been summoned to the scene, and Clyde preparing for sheer, outright, unabashed hell as he straightens and dresses for the occasion, removing the splotches and splatters and stains of blood from his clothing, and Alex slinking and stalking amongst the shelter as the police invade and question and corral and otherwise make a nuisance of themselves, having arrived a day late and $1 short to the war. And is with no small amount of puffery and agitation that they remove themselves from the shelter, heading back into the night to further be late to the scene of crimes, to avenge the wrong but not be there to stop it. With that being the case, starting in alphabetical order as the police and fire and EMTs leave the shelter, leave the premises, leave the street, leave the domain, having witnessed what you've all wrought, knowing that in the morgue are not only stacks of dustborn, both living, torpid, and otherwise disposed, but piles and piles of Molotovs and incendiary devices in preparation of your meeting later this evening. What is it that Alexander is seeking to do? Did we lose you? Okay. Seems as we're experiencing a small bit of technical difficulties, so we're going to slide right along. Clyde, having dressed for the evening, is there something that you have in mind to do, to accomplish?
So, after this unforeseen circumstance, is the rest of the country going with the plan, or has anybody scattered to the wind?
Well, you all did scatter, as it were. Each of you all heading to your various places, either secreted amongst the shadows, much like ghosts that you are for the living, or in Hestia's case, meeting the force and weight of the police directly, or evading the scene entirely. But your plans, as discussed, were to regroup and get to Chinatown get to...
Yeah, but I needed Dizzy to help me drive all these Molotovs to different places. If she's not around, then I'm guessing I'm gonna try to procure myself some sort of van.
Okay. Well, the shelter does have a few vehicles to their usage that would suit your purposes. are you waiting for the police to completely leave, police, fire, and EMTs to leave the scene, or you're just going to move the van from the parking garage down into your relatively secreted tunnel towards the morgue?
I probably start moving the Molotovs to a nearby entrance, and then when the opportunity arises, I'm guessing if there's a secret entrance, there's a lot less police than on the other side. So, thinking about how many Molotovs did I have, like some 60 or something like that. I'm guessing it takes me around an hour to just move them from the morgue to the entrance of the secret entrance.
Well, the funny thing is, as you head into the morgue to begin moving your pretty destructive and well-appointed incendiaries, you find Lucio and Arsenio there. Arsenio looking all too much like the cat who got the canary.
Hey Lucio, are we gonna do this tonight, or did the party get cancelled?
Yes, we're still doing this. And I just had a thought. Arsenio,
We are in
how
danger.
good are you with explosives? I'm sorry, what was that, Clyde?
I just said now we are in danger. Because you had a thought.
Oh, we're always in danger. But as I was saying...
Your friend knows explosives?
I was just about to ask him, how good are you with Molotovs and explosives?
Well, as long as the recipe is already put together, I'm pretty good at tossing them, you know? Yeah, it could have went AAA.
You think you can transport them without having them explode?
Sure thing, that's easy enough. Just throw them in the trunk and make sure there ain't nothing easy nearby. No steel wool, no soaked cloth, no matches, no, strike sticks, nothing like that.
Clyde, I figured out how we're gonna bring your bombs into Chinatown.
That's excellent. Now just remember to text me the address exactly and where did you leave them, because some friends are gonna go by and pick them up later into the night.
So here's what I was thinking. We would have Arsenio drop us off. He would drive away. Obviously, we would have at least one or two on our person so that... Well, maybe that won't be necessary with how many people you've apparently recruited, so to speak, for this. But once he leaves, he would drop them off to whatever site you wanted.
Yeah, no problem. The farther I am to all of these, the safer I feel. So, sounds like a plan.
Alright. Arsenio, Clyde, please give each other the details necessary and work that out.
Sure thing, that's not a thing at all. Fumbles through pockets and produces a phone. While it is not the match of yours in terms of how old it is, how many series removed from the present day, it is considerably less modern than the newest iPhone. It is clearly, while he has not gone full anachronistic, he is definitely a creature of some habit. So, what's your details? You got touch on that thing?
Yeah, listen, it's not very complicated. I'm gonna invite some friends and they are gonna pick all these candy and then they are gonna go and give the candy away to get my treat.
Okay, sounds like a plan. And as you all exchange information, i.e. photos and such, you are... Dizzy stepping out of the car with Vivi. There is some unsavoriness in her smile, like the very idea that she may very easily and quickly turn into a problem for anyone and anything that happens to accidentally threaten you. sits very firmly at the foremost of your mind as you watch several detective cars and police cars and the last ambulance and last fire truck, fire engine leave the area.
Okay.
It is clear from the older gentlemen that you spot in the lead car, they are leaving unhappy or at the very least unsatisfied.
All right. Well, I'll lean against a wall and light a cigarette and watch them go.
Making yourself as small as possible and giving a quick little spark up to a square, you notice that Hestia is there at the door, having walked them out of the haven, out of the shelter more directly.
Hey, what's up? Was their coupon expired or?
Well, the problem is they thought that they were smarter than me. And they tried that whole I'm a man chest beating thing. You're a innocent little woman, you wouldn't understand shit. Didn't go over well. So I reminded them, while still being perfectly human and innocent, that what I said is what I said, and that if there was any further harassment, I would be talking to my lawyer, which we do have, by the way. So, they were given the gang warfare story, which is basically kind of what it was. And I gave them some sketches of people that had been following me before, because oddly enough, we were having a problem with the local gang. So kind of all ties into everything. A little bit of misdirection. They'll have somebody to look for that might actually be a danger to us at some point. So problem sort of solved, which is why they're upset, because they wanted me to spill my guts. Yeah.
Dizzy will wink at you and say, all my favorite lies are always wrapped in a big old blanket of truth.
Speaking of truth and lies, there is a pressing matter of coterie in the offing, getting from where you are to meet up with Sun Che into time enough to get to Chinatown so that you can sit with the head Wu of Chinatown and either make amends, otherwise distract, or kick off your plans that you've laid.
If you said a quick question about that, I did post earlier this week. We were asking whether Alexa was going to go back to help Damien with Waneka, being he's now officially a hound, or whether they were coming with me, or one was going back or one was staying. So we need to figure out how that's.
Well, as Lucio had made his and Arsenio's dash into the haven with a goose that fellers the cops are coming, they exited stage left, making their way to Damien, who's meeting with God knows how many anarchs at the Elysium that is the succubus.
Okay, I mean, that's probably the better place for them. He definitely needs backup, and I wouldn't want to leave him without any. So that sounds good to me. That's the only thing I was confused about. We're good.
I had one question, actually. I requested floor plans from Novak.
Yes, you did.
Now, thankfully, we established that he always leaves late. So, does that mean he gets to arrive after the police leave?
Yes, he'd be pulling up in a few moments.
Excellent, because that would be wonderful to have those.
So as you all are exchanging information, Hess and Diz, as you mentioned the fact that you had been followed by the local Chicago Latin soul Hither and Yon, they have not made any maneuvers the shelter, and they had been ramping up in terms of frequency and their outright silent threats. at least until you made the acquaintance of a forlorn spirit, an entity from the other side. And while that thought marinates, Lucio, knowing approximately how quickly and prompt Novak is, would you remain in the morgue as Arsenio and Clyde loaded the trunk of the arrived caddy with various incendiary devices? Would you have gone up to meet?
I would actually want to have Hestia come with me for this, because I think it's better to hear from him what he told me about Theus looking into everything.
Okay. And how do you arrange that? Do you just call up, or do you call her, or you go looking for her?
I will go up to see her in person.
Okay, so as you're, moving from tip to tail of the shelter, people are telling you, oh yeah, Miss Green's out there. She's out front. She walked the cops out of here. Yeah, she made them run like dogs with their tail between their legs, man. Or things along those lines. You find yourself at the front of the shelter as Dizzy finishes her. Now, does Dizzy smoke Pall Malls? Does she smoke Cowboy Killers? Is she a Black Death sort of kindred?
It's probably a new thing for her, so she probably just kind of smokes whatever. I think it just reminds her of probably somebody in her group used to smoke, so.
All right, sounds like a plan. That being the case, in the spirit of connection with the past and a slightly less than subtle jab of memory of Alston, who had been the most human, she finds herself smoking Nat Sherman Fantasia. It's a very colorful, well-packed luxury brand of cigarette. It is in Chicago, almost preternaturally expensive, but then again, someone who is not addicted to nicotine and who has recently picked up the habit, it is a luxury item to begin with. So its additional cost and price doesn't really quite register. It's not like she's going through a pack and a half, 2 packs a day. There's a subtle sweetness to it. There's a almost clove-like acridity, but otherwise, it's just a newfound habit. And there is Lucio popping his head out of the front door of the shelter.
I give a brief knock as I enter the scene. Hess, you have a moment? I've got someone coming over with some floor plans for the 3 happiness that might be helpful for our infiltration team. And they told me some things that you might want to hear.
Still there, Hess?
You're muted if you're talking right now.
All right, sounds seems as if
If I missed something, you're gonna have to repeat it. I had to run away from the computer.
I'm sorry. Lucio was asking if you wanted to come down to meet Novak, basically.
Sure.
So as you guys are sitting here discussing the idea of meeting back, behold, who should happen to pull up to the scene across the street, having circled the block twice and just missed the police by careful listening to the police scanner in his vehicle. He drives a late 2000 Jeep Cherokee, which has been outfitted with all sorts of things that are technically illegal, including a police scanner, a radar detector. He has a laptop built into the center console. He is very much one to flout any and every law that he considers illegal, unjust, or just problematically annoying. He is roughly 5'6", 5'7", and carries his weight well for his height, but it is clear that in his younger days that he was very much a scrapper. His salt and pepper hair is carefully salt and pepper, considering that he went white sometime in his 40s, which was roughly the early 90s, late 80s. And he steps bow-leggedly out of the Jeep and starts removing manila folder after manila folder of things, including a relatively large accordion file folder from the back seat. He kicks a can or two out of the way as they fall and tumbling from the back seat of the Jeep Cherokee.
So she's just kind of taking him in and forming somewhat of an opinion in her head, but mostly keeps quiet because this is Lucio's thing, so.
Finally secure and having removed what it was that he was seeking, he looks left, looks right, double checks himself once more, then begins making his way across the street. His arms laden, though it's clear that he could easily just carry everything under one arm. Kid, you wouldn't have believed the traffic. Oh my god, this is just becoming a fucking shithouse everywhere.
Yeah, tell me about it. You remember the plans, right?
Then he starts offloading things from his hands as you mentioned plans. Look, I may not be spots and be able to detect, radar and radio things into your phone, but this is old hat. I got this down. Of course, normally I would just dropped it at one of the dead drops and we would have never had to see each other. And Gertrude wouldn't have been left a little, not quite satisfied.
I don't need to hear about that. But what I do want to hear about, if you can just refresh my memory, is who it was that was asking about floor plans and what places they were asking about, if you don't mind.
Oh, that trouble we had with the cops and them trying to cut how much money we're making because we don't get as many referrals anymore. What did you do, by the way? Because I hear Kamal's on a leave of sorts. You'll tell me about it later. But so to make up for dollars not quite meeting in the middle like they used to, we had to take a couple of jobs from outside sources. That outside sources, the biggest one is theists. And who'd have thunk that the self-help people are interested in maybe buying other properties like this place, some Chinese restaurant down in Chinatown, the Monadnock building, which, that's one of the most haunted places in the world. So it is what it is. And he's just levels out 3 or 4 more places. And the thing that stands out to Hesh is the fact that he keeps mentioning the old library in Hyde Park. The old library, which all the kindred know, especially those of the chantry, know as the primary chantry for the Tremere. It is a center of mystical knowledge. Hesh was just there.
She's trying very hard to keep a poker face, but inside her head, she's getting really tired of these theist people, especially after what they did earlier.
But yeah, between all these buildings are keeping us really a little busy. So much so, Spots had to take a night off. But you already know this. I know your mind's like a trap, kid. So what is it that you're really trying to drive home?
Mainly, I'm just trying to have you explain it to her.
Oh, how do you do, miss? I almost didn't see you there. You're almost as short as I am.
Pleasure to meet you. Well,
Pleasure's all mine. So, kid, you hanging out, and you sure you're not moonlighting on me?
I am positive.
I don't know. It just doesn't seem quite right. You happen to be at one of the places these guys are looking to buy or whatever it is they're doing.
I'm just
Mr.
checking
Darcy
in on my
actually
sister.
is one of our best volunteers, and his sister works here, so he comes to visit her sometimes.
Your sister's old enough to work now?
Yep.
Fucking hell.
Time flies, am I right?
Who are you telling? I remember you still a snot-nosed little do-gooder popping around the office, you and that Indian kid, Elijah. Who'd have thunk he'd become a cop and you become someone who actually does a real job, a real day's work? Oh.
Good times, am I right?
That you are, but I still gotta wonder. This place, it makes sense that they want to buy. It's good property. Big, too. The others, not so much. I'm a knock just for the status of it. Restaurant. I don't know. I wonder about it. But it ain't my place to get paid for it, so I really can't look into it the way that I'd like to. Between the histories of these places, the one thing they got in common is they're all haunted.
Maybe they're looking to make a haunted house. You're never too soon to start preparing for Halloween, right?
Yeah, you'd think that, but they're better places. You know, Graceland Cemetery.
Excuse me, Mr. Darcy.
Mister? Hey, kid, you got them calling you Mister now?
Hey, do I have time to take my lunch break while you finish up your meeting with Uncle Sarge here?
Yes, go on.
Thank you.
I turn back to Novak and I ask him, what was the name of the guy who wanted all this again? You said he was a French guy, right?
Yeah, Philippe, I don't know, Regaud. He got mad when I mispronounced it, so I made it in my business to mispronounce it as much as possible. So much so I almost forget the actual way to pronounce it. R-I-G-A-U-D, Regaud, whatever it was.
As many ways to annoy him as possible, am I right? And you said he was there with a blonde lady one time?
Yeah, one of their HR directors, community outreach, or whatever it was. Some of these newfangled titles means that she gets paid to do nothing.
Exactly. 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, about that.
That's what you think.
She gets around that one. Quite busy, from what I've heard.
Very. Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, it is. I'm quite handsome this time of evening. Gertrude thinks so anyway. So your sister's here? But she's already gone for the day.
I think she's still here.
I'll go in, I'll say hi. It'd be
Thanks,
rude.
I'm sure she'd like that.
It'd be rude not to. Just anywhere, just ask somebody inside, or she worked like the front desk?
She was in the kitchen the last time I saw, but she might have come out since then.
Okay, I'll go out. I'll ask. Thanks. You, make sure I get at least the copies of those back eventually, okay?
Yep, sure thing.
And he heads in, making himself quickly and easily at home. Because, perfectly honest, the homeless, the indigent, those who are down and out have been some of the best infiltrators that he's used over the years. Those who are permanently invisible to people with money and people who feel guilty about their wealth. They forcefully ignore the down and out, the poor, the downtrodden. They've worked with, for, and been used by him quite often over the years.
As soon as he is very clearly out of earshot, I turn to Lucio. Guess who came by trying to steal our employees earlier? I'll give you one.
Theist.
They are opening a new shelter, it seems.
Jesus.
You know we can't let that happen.
Oh, definitely not. Where is it supposed to be opening up?
It takes her a second to remember. Yeah.
That's, not too far from here, is it?
Nope, straight shot south. Just under a quarter of a mile.
Bold of them.
Stupidly bold.
So what's the plan for that? I mean, we're definitely have our hands full tonight, but that's definitely something we're gonna have to deal with as soon as possible.
Well, Cold War comes to mind because we can't attack them outright, but make sure they don't get their employee count up, snake their people, make sure the contractors have issues, that sort of thing.
I'm sure that making sure their administrator stays missing would probably also help hamper their operations.
Most likely, but we really need to find her. So, with that being said, I'm sure we need to get on our way. We're running really close here for me meeting Sunshine and making it to Chinatown. And time to not be rude.
Arsenio said that he's gonna help drive us there, so shall we?
Gather the troops, I guess.
Now, existing in that space between spaces and being just out of sight of everyone, Alexander, how would you have whiled away the last few moments? The busyness, the frenetic pace, and the excess energy from having fought a war kind of slowly ebbs away.
So wait, I'm a bit confused actually on where I am.
Well, as a
Because
police
I thought I was following Lucio into the Haven and like staying close to him, but he's been traveling, like he's been moving around, and there hasn't really been much mention of me. So I don't know. I'm not sure what happened there.
well, when you obfuscated and made your way into the Haven, caught Lucio and
Oh, I didn't. Okay, that now I see. I meant to say I wasn't obfuscating anymore. I was going into the Haven instead. But I suppose if that's like already a thing that's going on, then I could instead keep an eye on the police, and if they are like approaching the Haven, or what they're looking at, and what notes they're taking on the situation, since they can't see me.
Okay, excellent. So we're going to do something a little different here to account for your time and the police having left and all of that. Would you so kind of just go ahead and roll your wits plus stealth, and you get to add your obfuscate if you wish.
Alright, so where is it? Okay, wow. So that'd be okay.
Okay, so once you disappeared from sight and made your way in, making sure that Lucio and Arsenio were okay, you began following and tracking the police and EMTs and the officials that beset and besieged the shelter. You notice that the top four most official police officers, the detectives, lead detectives, and their cadre make their way to the office. As they make their way to the office, the unis, the regular uniformed officers, and one of the detectives who leaves the office begins making their way through the shelter. Some of them stop in the kitchen and beset Amalia and her staff. Others make their way to the front desk. Others move between and amongst the denizens of the shelter, asking little questions. And while it's all part of the investigation to find out what happened out front, how come they were besieged by so many calls for help and assistance that all came in all at once, even though some of them were reporting as having been 15, 20, 30 minutes old, the biggest thing at the scene was the burning car, which is, cars don't explode every day, so they were sure that someone's would have noticed, would have done so. And you notice that a few more take interest in Faye and Stella, who have not had an opportunity to leave because everything broke out all at once. You notice that a few more take a very point of fact interest in a few of the regular denizens of the shelter, so much so that you are sure they recognize them from other places across the city. In their questioning, it becomes obvious that roughly 10% of the officers present are hinting and beating around the bush that something supernatural took place. And not coming right out and saying it, but you use such coded phrases yourself in trying to describe or subvert expectations as to what you are. That wariness and that attention is not something that most police actually have, yet they seem to have it in spades. So much so it's like, and you're sure you haven't seen anybody pale or clearly strung out in the area. The detective that leaves the office immediately gets on her cell phone, and you nearly have a heart attack as you see her log onto Byte. She types in, "All's well, no signs. What the fuck?" And a few moments later, they are all leaving, walked out by Hestia.
I see. So, alright, so some of the police there straight up, like, are supernaturally aware
Yes,
in a way, right?
100%.
Man, do I have any inference on why that might be? Or is that just completely like, oh shit, somebody fucked up the masquerade, or...
Well, in the last few months since, well, almost year now, since the happenings back in September with the Dalton Disco, there have been roughly 2 major encroachments on the masquerade, 2 major incidents that have potentially let others know that creatures of the night such as yourself exist and operate. One of them just happened outside your door. While you guys were very promptly cleaning it up, it is clear that other people are aware beings such as yourself exist. So much so they were asking all but direct questions.
I see. Oh man. Alright. And so some of them went in, but they're coming out now. Because, and Hestia talked to them, right?
Yep, and they're vacating the premises as she all but bodily walks them out the door.
Gotcha.
They're getting the bums rush, as polite as you please.
Alright, so they're all leaving. Gotcha. That's not good. That means the masquerade violations have been a lot worse than I thought. If police officers are asking about vampires, all but indirectly. Good to know, though. Now I'm gonna make my way inside the Haven, and I guess brief Lucio and Hestia on this.
Okay, fair enough. As Lucio and Hestia come back into the office carrying, just behind Dizzy, carrying manila folders and accordion file folders, do you make yourself present or visible? Or you just start talking to them? You know you can hold a conversation as long as you whisper.
No, I'm gonna appear. And I'm just gonna appear and be like, some of the cops know.
Oh, Jesus, fuck. We need to have
they
a
were
rule
asking-
about this.
They were asking about pale figures, and with sharp teeth. So the masquerade is a lot thinner than I originally thought. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but Chicago is a hot zone right now, I'd say.
Well, actually, the reason they know, because I'm pretty sure the ones that know were Duskborn. The one that left the office was almost assuredly Duskborn. I couldn't catch her in time, but once I started mentioning the symbol drawn around the city, she turned even paler than she already was, and hastily made her retreat. So they've infiltrated
I
the cops.
see.
We also already know that the police are being controlled by at least one group of kindred, if not more. But now that we know that the Duskborn are in with the police as well, that definitely changes things.
Yeah, that's really not good, because then you got what looks like people in uniform looking for vampires, which even if it's, an on-the-low thing, we can't trust the Duskborn of all entities to be discreet about this at all. It's very probable that another cop who's actually a cop overhears it and starts putting 2 and 2 together. There are some intuitive individuals in the police department. It's kind of like their job. So how quickly do you guys think we can take care of that Duskborn threat, if at all?
Well, they're probably licking their wounds tonight after what we just did. But I don't count on them to be all that dissuaded, even though we took out probably half of what they had.
I mean,
Tonight,
how many
though,
are
we
left?
can't focus on that. We have to focus on what we already planned and be done with it.
I mean, related to what you
Get
just
out.
said, how many of them could possibly be left after tonight? I was always under the assumption that we all try to keep our numbers low. Frankly, I'm amazed that there were as many Duskborn in the city as we saw out there, and apparently there's more.
Well, they're not playing by the rules, are they? Because if they were, they wouldn't exist in the first place.
A fair point.
There's also a very real, as everyone considers, how many Dustborn were out front and are now stored, stacked and stocked in the morgue. They were being fed. Everyone who was anyone heard of the ability to feed at the Dalton Disco. And the word spread so far and wide that even a road crew, which is all but invisible to normal city politics and news, knew that the disco was the place to be for a free feed and greed. So it's like the strays, the stray cats and dogs who live wild through most urban areas. If they have a place to feed freely without any real trouble being thrown their way, their numbers swell. And speaking of numbers swelling, Clyde, you and Arsenio finally get the last case of Molotovs into the trunk of the caddy. He stops and wipes his brow. He knows, I've gotten as many as 4 bodies back here. I wouldn't have thought that I can get this many of this other stuff back here. This is kind of impressive. Hopefully we don't hit any potholes going down Milwaukee.
Well, as long as there isn't a flame source nearby, I think we will be alright. But yeah.
Yeah, no. I put the sticks over there. Of course, I feel a little bad just in case something's wrong. I don't have any flare. I don't have any strike sticks. It's gonna be a little problematic if anything happens to my baby here. What do you want?
Well, if anything happens, you won't feel it. Don't worry. I think people in Gary, Indiana might feel it, but you won't.
Yeah, I always wanted to go up big, but not necessarily the fucking mushroom cloud. So, where do you want these?
So out of character, last week you mentioned like 2 places, kind of.
Yes. Yes, 2 parking structures. There's a parking lot right there next to the red line, literally a stone's throw away from the 3 Happiness. And there's also a similar parking structure centrally located in Hyde Park. Getting back and forth between the 2 takes roughly about 35-40 minutes based on traffic, but it's doable in 15 if you push it. So is that where you would like Arsenio to stash and store these?
Is that close to the Tree of Life?
Yes.
Yeah, something like at most 10 minutes walking distance from the Tree of Life. That will be alright.
It's considerably less. The parking lot is an open lot, but it is a stone's throw away from the 3 Happiness. You can literally be from the parking lot to the 3 Happiness in under a minute.
Nice.
And you can be from the parking structure in Hyde Park to the Chantry, i.e. the old library, then 6 to 7, depending on how quickly you...
I told him, just remember, give me exact directions of where we can pick up. If you leave it in a car or in a dumpster or something like that.
Yeah, sure thing. I know both of the places you're talking about. The good, quiet spots to meet people. I'll put half next to the train, like you say, in that parking lot, and then I'll put the other half in the parking garage, right there off of Harper Court. Is there a reason why you want to put them in the parking garage in Harper Court? I thought you guys were going to the Chinese restaurant.
Oh, this is for my friends, you know. It's not for us.
Okay, whatever you say. Lucio say help, I'm gonna help. But you know, this much, could you can get some real trouble. It's not the good old days where you can burn down a building, collect the insurance, burn it down again, and get more. Plus, get the board up contract and the rehab contract too. They look into these things. You gotta kind of hide them a little bit better. You gotta, have 3 or 4 different companies applying for the bid. You own all 3. You got friends and associates in all 3. But it still comes to the same place. You just gotta hide it a little bit better now.
Well, if everything goes as planned, maybe we don't need to hide anything. But yeah, thank you for the advice.
Yeah, no worries. Well, you want to go ahead and find Lucio, make sure you guys ready to go?
Yeah, sure. Sounds like a plan.
You want me to wait here? I'm going to pull around front.
No, man. Just go to the place because we are operating in a time constraint. So.
I thought it was your ride, but okay. So, Lucy, I'm on my way.
Oh, out of culture. Was he my ride?
Yeah, Lucio, I wanted him to give you guys a lift down to the 3 Happiness.
Oh, okay. In that case, I tell him, well, I will go with you to the first drop off, and then I will meet the rest of the Scooby gang.
Oh, you want to go now?
Yeah, I need to hit a couple of places. I need to hit a couple of places before we all get together.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go ahead and text him. He might get it in the next 3 hours. And he begins texting Lucio. Hey, I got your buddy. I'm gonna go drop him off now. Let me know if I need to come back and get you.
I send a reply. You're taking all of us, right? ?
No, your friend says he wants to be dropped off now.
Oh shit. Hess? Clyde says he's leaving with, Arsenio says he's taking Clyde already on his own.
I need to go.
Yeah, let's go. I hand Dizzy and Alex the floor plans right away. Here, study these while we're running to stop a potential hate crime.
He is pretty racist against lupines.
You'd be too if you've ever seen one.
Oh, I have.
One almost bit off my head, so not to brag or anything, but I got pretty close.
Yeah, they don't like us. They kind of live in between cities, where I spent most of my time.
So, Clyde, as you and Arsenio, him throwing on his jacket, holy fuck, you won't believe this, but Lucio actually responded pretty quick. So the first thing is the 3 Happiness and then the High Park location, right?
Yeah, don't see why not.
Alright, sounds like a plan. Then we're gonna do something about all these bodies you guys left with fucking lying around. He says, purposely trying to distance himself from the fact that you guys have Dustborn bits and bobs still stacked up because you didn't get a chance to burn them because the police arrived on scene too soon. As you will slide into the passenger seat of the caddy, Lucio, Alex, Dizzy, and Hestia are there. Not like they ran through the building, closing doors behind themselves, but yeah, they're there pretty quickly for people who weren't ready to go.
So are we going?
Yes, all of us. Right? Not just you by yourself to blow the place up before we can even have negotiations, right?
No. I just need to go some places before. I told Hestia that whatever you do it before 1 a.m. What? Out of character, what time is it right now?
It's about 10:30, all going on 10:40, somewhere right around in there. Right about now, considering with the distraction of the police and having pulled all the bodies inside and sprayed down the street and made sure it looks as if you all didn't murder 50 people.
Yeah, I maybe gonna tell them 1:30 a.m. just to give us a little bit more time.
The Caddy is a good car. It's a good road car. And one of the many reasons, even though it doesn't really factor in too often, there is enough space, front and back seat, for the entirety, all 6 of you all. Yeah, it is an old enough Caddy where there isn't a central console breaking up the front seat, and there aren't any unnecessary accoutrements outside of the central hump that all the short people hated growing up. It was a wide bench style seat, and while you guys are a little close, closeness makes people grow fonder from time to time. So as you all bail in and Alexander starts up the car, hey, by the way, anybody smoke? I smoke, but I won't be smoking in the car today because we're loaded up with Molotovs and all of that, okay?
No flames.
Oh.
I mean, you can take your chances. It's not like it's exposed, but, you know, freak accidents are called freak accidents not because they make you feel good and freaky, but because they're weird and things happen.
Yeah, I mean, I never knew my maker, but I don't want to start now.
So needless to say, even with a rough approximation of what you guys are headed into, there is a certain pall that rests over the group because you guys make it from Rogers Park to just north of Chinatown in under 26 minutes, and all by avoiding 9094 to get from one point to the next. You even take pains to not hop on Lakeshore Drive as much as most think that's the fastest route down and around. You guys, in fact, take Ashland before cutting over to Western and ride that as if it's your main line to life. In the doing so, as you guys are nearing Chinatown and making your way across Pershing to backtrack to the city, the little enclave, there's a certain quietude that exists, a certain quietness, because you guys are heading into a place where Clyde has warned you he was almost eaten, where he has drummed and drilled in the fact that those beings were going to consume him. And with the shared information from Hesha that the Wan Kuei absorb and feed on chi, it's a little bit like being a cow led before, the Restaurateurs Guild of America. You can almost imagine people sizing you up for choice cuts, select meats.
Yeah, the crazy chick that lives there, she apparently has a short temper and some sort of understanding with Camarilla. I'm guessing some sort of truce or permission to operate or whatever. She said that she was gonna take my hand or something, but then she started just chopping.
That's why we have Sunshine meeting us here, because technically, as long as she's with us, they shouldn't be able to do such things. Now, I said technically because Sunshine is crazy, and possibly one of them, or at least halfway one of them, so I never know what she might do.
Why did we think this was a good idea? Why did any of us think this was a good idea?
Do you think she'll get mad if I accidentally call her Sun Chip?
Well, technically what's supposed to happen is she's supposed to not know you're there at all. You and Alex and... Wait, did we forget Blue?
Blue's always with us. Right?
That's true. I am always not too far, but I think this is a bad fucking idea. Nobody listens to me till it's too damn late. Your boy here almost spilled the beans and got eaten. Shit me down to the damn basement where they keep all you motherfuckers hanging on meat hooks like the prime cuts of beef that you are. But, you know, you motherfuckers be crazy.
So I understand it, you were able to hide Clyde before, right?
Yeah, I can hide him. Yeah, there ain't no problem.
You think you could hide Dizzy and Alex?
As long as they stick together. There ain't no goddamn willy-nilly field trip to the goddamn zoo where y'all run here, there, and everywhere. If somebody actually listens to me, then maybe we can get some things done. You motherfuckers want my help? It says, somehow apparating directly in front of Dizzy and Alexander, like they can actually hear him.
Can I not hear him?
No, you can. He did, but you couldn't previously.
Okay. So this is the first time I'm seeing this.
Oh yeah, and it is literally. If you've seen the old Running Scare with Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal and Jimmy Smits, the way that Jimmy Smits first dressed, long trench coat, big wide shoulder pads, scarf, except for in garish colors, it's a bright electric blue, and his shirt is equally as shark skinned and bright and neon. His jerry curl is more than on point, and he's even wearing sunglasses. And while yes, he's a ghost, it still is nighttime.
Holy shit! What's up, Sugar Bear?
Oh goddamn! You motherfuckers can see. How the fuck that happened? Did I make myself visible again? God damn it! I gotta stop doing that shit.
Alex is a bit, surprised by because the only spirit he's seen so far is Force Appeals, and that dude is like creepy, and this is straight up like a kids movie ghost. So he's a little bit surprised, but he's not too put off by it. He readjusts a bit enough to hear enough to pay attention to the fact that Blue just called them a bunch of little kids going on a field trip, and have the look on his face that he would hearing.
So for the record, again, I'm gonna ask you this one last time before we part ways, and I mind my business, and you all go down in private. You motherfuckers need my help or not?
I think you two need to say yes.
I could definitely use some help hiding everyone. If what he does is similar to what I do, we could potentially have the ability to split off into groups, because we have two people who can cloak other members of the infiltration team.
Well, what I do and what you do, I'm sure is completely different. Ain't like you already been well, technically you are dead, so I may be close to what we do. But yeah. So you and Blondie gonna take my hand and shake it.
I'm not really sure what he's offering, because I can sell my own ass if I need to do that.
Well, I think that those. What's the name? I keep thinking Kuei-Jin from B20. I think those vampires are kind of not very. They are not affected by at least by what I try to do, or some of them were, and some of them
I
weren't.
see.
So
Well, they might try to buy a little ass, you know. Who's to say? White chocolate.
I see. So what you're saying, Clyde, is my powers wouldn't be effective against the people we're infiltrating.
well, some of them maybe, but I tried to do my
Hold on,
thing
hold
with-
on. You guys are mixing up powers again. What Clyde does is different from what you do and what from I do, Alex. So what you and Blue might be able to do should work perfectly fine. What Clyde tried to do is more than likely brain fuck them, and it didn't quite work because he can't do mass groups of brain fucking.
Oh, that motherfucker fucked a lot of brains. That's what's true. Although,
Did you get
between
10%
fucking
for them?
oh no, but between fucking brains and fucking white chocolate, I think they might go for white chocolate more than the brain part. Know what I mean?
No.
out of character. Isn't obfuscate exactly brain fuckery?
Yeah, it is, and I think Alex wouldn't be taking that risk. He's down to completely use Blue's camouflage over his own if there's even a risk. He's not one to take us when it comes to infiltration missions. He makes things as surefire as he can. So, following Lucio's lead, he's just gonna agree and shake Blue's hand and ask for his help.
Right on, motherfucker. What about you, white chocolate? You gonna take my hand, sell some ass?
I don't know. What happens when I take your hand?
Well, then we got an agreement. Goddamn it, we all on the same page.
And that's it? I'm not like selling my soul or becoming your bottom bitch or any of that shit?
Nah. I prefer something with a little more hips. He looks at Hestia, then back. But we would have an agreement, and I help you now. You guys help me later when we say so. When I say so, when you agree so. You know, simple, straightforward. Fair trade ain't never theft.
Okay, see, I understand that sort of thing. I suppose.
Yeah, this shit's getting easier and easier.
Hey, DC, if a bitch cannot trust a pin, what kind of world we live in?
The real world?
ain't,
That's what I'm saying.
ain't no such thing as a real world. There's only a sept. Speaking of sept, how we doing on me getting the goddamn place?
I have an idea. I'll share it with you later.
Okay then. And the moment he says okay then, you guys are actually pulling into the parking lot next to the red line, a literal stone's throw from the Three Happiness. You can see it from where you are. Standing out front of it, even with it being as busy as it is Sun Che. Now, Clyde, you have experience with Sun Che. She offered to eat your mind and said that she would eventually. Hestia, you have more than a little experience with Sun Che. And Alex, you were there when Sun Che and the brunette Erich Cho arrived to help you all make the initial deal with Fort Sepulus. But she's alone. The calming influence of the brunette that was with her then is not with her now. And it is clear that she is styling and profiling. She is purposefully drawing as much attention to her as possible. Des, you know what that very much is. You've done the similar thing on repeated instances. Except for in this case, unlike when you've done it previously, most recently to the slaughter of all of those poor, misguided Dustborn, most people seem to be ignoring her purposefully. They're entering in and out of the restaurant, moving past her, noticing that she's there, but doing what they can to avoid being pulled in. Like they're swimming against the tide, they're swimming against the stream.
Well, before we get out, have you had enough time to study the map? Because this is where we split up. She can't know that we have others with us, so that if shit goes sideways, we'll take the blame while you get in. And do what you have to do. And with that, she's looking at Dizzy.
I was supposed to study a map.
They'd be able to take it with them, right?
They could.
For that.
I thought Alex was doing that.
All right.
Temples. She's rubbing her temples, right?
I didn't waste all my time. Yelp says to avoid the Mongolian beef from Yelp. You can always trust Yelp.
Well, yeah, they're not really northern Chinese. That's more of Lao Shanghai that actually is. But anyway, as you all exit, who remains in the car? Arsenio, Dizzy, and Alex, correct?
Correct. Those three will be the ones going. Oh, those two plus Blue will be the ones infiltrating the basement to find whatever there is to find. Clyde, Lucio, and myself, along with Sunshine, are heading in the front door to provide distraction, quote unquote.
After they get out of the car, I'll lean over to Alexander and say, I totally looked at the map, don't worry.
Good to know.
Anybody else need to get out before I go into the parking lot? I gotta go further north down the parking lot and try to hide what's half of what's in the trunk before going over to Hyde Park and dropping us off. And with that, it is 47 after the hour. Let's take a quick 10 here and be back 7 after the hour. Testing. All right, folks. Who's back?
Here.
Yo. So we're just waiting on Alex and Clyde.
Here.
All right. Hello. Can you guys hear me? Hello. All right, there we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. All right. So with the party split and plans laid, just waiting Alex to make an appearance, and then we'll start in alphabetical order, moving through what lays ahead for the coterie. All right. Well, let's do this. Change the plans. We'll work in reverse alphabetical order. As Lucio, Hestia, and Clyde step out of the car, making their way through the parking lot towards Sunche, who's standing out front. You were saying, Clyde?
No.
Okay. Despite the shared moments, despite the shared insanity that has taken place between Sunche and the coterie, there is a quick look of recognition and almost welcome. Her eyes brighten, her smile appears, and it appears so large and bright, and as you all approach, that there isn't much done to hide her very present fame. As always, her svelte, attractive form and the bright green eyes of her gaze is appealing and attractive in and of itself. I am so happy that you all decided to do this.
I've definitely clocked the green eyes, so I know which Sunshine is in control right now. It's not a good sign, but I plaster a smile on my face, and of course, we had to make amends, of course.
Yes, because while you may be hound of our beloved tower, Chinatown is a nation unto itself. It is its own enterprise. And as such, your insult to the Yin RIn Kuei has to be made right. Do we have any questions as to what is to take place?
Do you know what they might ask for to make themselves whole in this situation, or is that up for negotiation?
Everything can be negotiated.
Lucio, do you have any questions?
No.
All right.
Well, then.
Let us begin. And instead of moving toward the three happiness, she takes a step towards the curb. You all are coming, aren't you?
Hit the wrong button, sorry. Coming where? We were supposed to meet here.
Yes, and we did. I thank you for being as prompt as did by your kind. But we will be meeting with the Yin RIn Kuei at the Kuei family. And she points directly across the street towards the relatively large store that sits at the corner. The upstairs has been made amenable to us all so that we might conduct business properly.
Well then, I suppose we should go.
There is, if I must be forthcoming and a good deal more honest, I suppose I should inform you that the Yin RIn Kuei have been the powers in Chinatown for several generations. And while they are not the most formidable of the tongs in the area, they are by far the most influential throughout the city, and not just Chinatown. They are businessmen and women first.
Clyde whispers into Hestier's ear. You sure?
I didn't quite catch that. One more time.
Are you sure that we have to go to this other place?
It would be rude to refuse their hospitality. And while we weren't expecting to move,
their hospitality has not been very kind to me. Okay, I will.
she's taking a very deep, unneeded breath, and she catches Lucio's eye, hoping that he'll understand that he needs to warn the second team to be more on their guard, seeing as how we are not going to be at the restaurant.
And catching this hint, Lucio takes out his, as he's turned away to look at the other side of the street, he takes out his phone so that Sunshay doesn't see it and sends a quick text to Dizzy. Be on guard. We're meeting across the street.
As you all make your way across the street behind Sunshay, you realize that much like when you all pursued Blakeney and her friends, her associates, through the downtown area, Sunshay does not bother to actually wait on the light. She weaves through traffic as if it's not actually there, or worse yet, that if it hit her, that nothing untoward would happen. This will stand out more anywhere else in the city, but here, there's up and down Wentworth, that same heedless crossing is being done. Folks are literally just stepping off the curb despite whatever the light may be, or despite whatever traffic may be. When you get to the building that she motioned towards, the store, which sits directly cat-a-corner to 3 Happiness, right there on 22nd and Wentworth, right there on Cermak, The first thing that hits you all, for those of you who have heightened senses and sense the unseen up, is the pervading feeling of death. It is as if there are several spirits and entities floating in and around you. You guys have felt similar situations, be it whether you entered into the Underdark beneath the succubus, or you entered into the darkened spaces beneath the Dalta Disco, or you were mindful of the exponentially increasing pressure of supernatural and spiritual energy at the Haven during the convergence. That same feeling, combined with the graying out of all life, is present as you all grow closer to the building, to the store. And instead of going through the front door, you all enter in through a side door closer to the rear. Entering in, you are able to smell and bathe in the scent of dying livestock, fresh killed animals who were alive moments before. The exotic perfume of fragrances and plants that are clearly not local to this time nor place.
Well, we are in the thick of it now.
And much like walking into a darkened room unprepared for just how deep and dark it is, there is the creeping sense that there are other things just out of sight, just beneath notice. Yet you can feel the pressure of them as you take the stairs, emptying out into a large chamber lined with a central table, upon which at the very head of it is a young lady, and by young I mean only about 86 years old. Sitting at the head to her right is a slightly younger gentleman in his 50s, his black hair just as dark as during his youth, but the age lines around his eyes signify that he is far older than his body should be. Across the table from him is the young lady who had the unmitigated pleasure of coming so very close to divesting Clyde of his existence.
I know her.
Well, lady, gentlemen, shall we? And Sunshine motions to the three chairs at the furthest end of the table, with her taking a seat closer to the middle. She politely nods and bows in greeting to the others present. And the moment that she sits, you all realize that you are not alone, and that this is not a place for less than polite behaviors. Because while you are on the second floor, you are visible to the third floor. The balconies just above the table are lined with people watching, much like you would when picking out a lobster from the dish at the front of a very high-class restaurant.
I follow suit with the bow and then sit, but give Clyde a very, very pointed look.
Clyde does a little bow and then a shoulder shrug. We are here now, so let's try to get whatever it is as fast as we can.
Lucio is following Hestia's lead here. So whatever she does, he'll try his best to follow suit.
As Lucio being the last to bow and in greeting and settle next to Hestia, Madame Kuei and her son Robert return the greeting, while the young lady across the table from them merely glowers at Clyde before a quick, curt nod of recognition. Sensei rubs her hands together and says, Madame Kuei, we are here for negotiation. And as the elder at the end of the table looks over the gathered, then spares a glance up to the balcony watching the happenings, we switch our focus to Dizzy and Alexander, who are exiting the caddy as Arsenio pulls to the furthest end of the parking lot and begins unloading half of the prepared incendiaries care of Clyde. He sits them next to the dumpster without throwing them in, sure that most people won't notice them. What is it that Alexander and Dizzy are heading towards?
Okay, so forgive me, since it's been like a week since we went over this. What exactly was the objective again, real quick, out of character?
Intelligence. Scout
Gotcha.
find Blakeney, find if there's any hide or hair of Dizzy's former crew members, and from there it is all up to your improvisation.
All right, so we gotta stay together so Blue can hide us. I guess just go through the first door we see to get this search started.
Dizzy, do you have your mute on? Perhaps we're experiencing a small bit of technical difficulties with Dizzy, so we're going to, as you two group together, moving with a similar purpose into the happiness, Blue hovering just before you all, remarking as to the dress and ensemble of those that you pass as the restaurant workers, both in the back of the house as well as the front, who are moving in and out of the area. He says, I guess you motherfuckers want to get downstairs, huh? Well, I did notice a stairway back that way. You want to take that way? You want to find another way down?
The stairway sounds like
Yeah, sounds fine.
All right. Well, let's give a quick roll here for his awareness and his ability to keep you all hidden. Because Alex, did you pick up Sense the Unseen?
yeah, I did.
Okay, which means can I should roll your wits and awareness right now. You have been in quieter places. You've been in stellar places. You've been in graveyards. You've been in tombs and temples. You've been in the middle of the desert at midnight on the moonless sky with the stars barely visible because of just how dark the world seemed, just how quiet the world was. That holds nothing in compared to where you are right now. You can see the shifting aural light of spirits moving past you, but the sounds from the kitchen and the sounds from the rest of the restaurant have dimmed down to nothing. As you take the stairs, carefully making your way along, there is the scent of not blood, but vitae immediately hitting both your noses, as if someone had found a way to force kindred to bleed freely. Dizzy, having kept track of the map and given it the once over, there are 4 large areas stated to exist down here. They were marked with storage, but storage typically doesn't require refrigeration, and that's exactly what's demarcated in the blueprints of supposedly their cooled and chilled storage. Is there one of the 4 that you're particularly heading towards?
No, she just pick one at random. She has no idea what's down here, so.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Even or odd?
Even.
See what fate has in store for you. Oh, it is in fact even. You all pick one of the 4 huge doors that are lining this basement area, and you realize that sometimes it's just better to get things wrong. As you slide open the door, and while you don't need to breathe, you can feel how cool the air is before you on various meat hooks, with the hooks being punctured through the middle central chest, i.e. the heart, are several clearly desiccating kindred who all bear these strange tattoos carved into their undead flesh. Somehow you know that this isn't quite normal, as the blood, the vitae from their punctured chest drips down onto the floor like a chorus of blip, 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 free-flowing vitae is not something that kindred typically possess, especially with their skin being desiccated, the muscles drying up and disappearing, with them clearly in a state of far-gone torpor that only the strongest of vitae could awaken them from. Dizzy, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your... It is a composure roll, but instead let's do this. Let's use your willpower. Could you go ahead and roll your willpower to resist what you see in front of you? The sheer weight of, as you look at these desiccating, you are blessed and cursed with a semblance of control as you look at these kindred hanging and slightly swaying with the cool air blowing in from the vents. Their vitae dripping and flowing freely. The men and women and formerly mobile kindred, all various ages and sizes and shapes and hair colors. The green dreads you've seen at rest. Green dreads you've seen dancing and enjoying life. Green dreads that had been willing to fight at your side and for your being with all they had. The tattoos which you could not quite fathom how they were able to keep them night after night without being refreshed. The cold, dead eyes which don't hold the warmth that you are accustomed to seeing when she looked upon you.
Okay. Do I see anyone else I recognize, first of all?
Nope.
I will look at Alex, point at her, and go, that one. I know that one.
Alex is a little distracted by the smell of kindred vitae for a bit, because he's already tasted it 3 times, and his blood makes him a little bit. It's like smelling a nice bottle of Merlot if you're an alcoholic and that was your poison. But since he's at a pretty low hunger, I would think he's able to snap out of it and be like, this one. What about this one?
He's able to snap out. He's able to snap out of it, though he wishes that he had not been able to. To be so kind as you, while you point to one of the male kindred swinging on the hooks, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll wits and awareness for me? Okay. There is no denying just how pervasively alluring the scent is. There is no... And you recognize the gentleman, Alex, that's swaying on the hooks. You've seen him. In fact, you saw him at the Dalton Disco. He was the gentleman that you pulled up from the falling floor and tossed to safety.
That's interesting. From what I know, wasn't he a human when I saved him?
He was.
And now it seems he's leaking...
Vitae. There's no seeming. That very much is very potent kindred vitae. The very life fluid flowing through your veins and every other kindred is leaking from his chest, flowing freely, which does not happen. It takes a huge amount of will to cause the vitae to flow. And those in torpor, those who have been staked, don't have that compunction. They don't have that ability. That makes no sense. Neither does all of the many scrawled and carved in sigils and signs and strange semblances of tattoos across their arms and neck and center of their forehead. But lo and behold, there they are, carved freshly and looking wet, even though they're clearly been here for long enough to start to desiccate, to dry up.
Does it look like they have a lot of cuts on their body, or is the leaking coming from the meat hooks, or is there, like, can I tell why they're bleeding so profusely? Kind of like what instrument might have caused this?
Well, the biggest pooling and dripping and leakage is from the center wound of the meat hook that they are hung upon. But the carved in sigils and runes and signs has a certain wet moistness about it as well. That those wounds, those incidents aren't bleeding freely, but there's no way that a corpse that has been dried like the finest of Wagyu should be leaking vitae.
Would I be able to try to use Sense the Unseen to try and discern whether or not the hooks are supernatural in any way? Or enchanted or anything like that?
Sure, you can try.
Alright, is that just a wits, and is that like an investigation or like an occult or a...
Wits, awareness, and Azure or humanity.
Alright. My humanity?
Mm-hmm.
Alright.
While Dizzy, as you look at her body, her eyes are open, but they're unseeing. They've glossed over. They're completely dead. There's no moisture in her eyes, even though the wounds across her body hold a certain wetness to them. As you look away, unwittingly, because even as strong as you are, there's something about watching someone that you love having experienced that pain. Would you be so kind as to roll your resolve and composure for me, first and foremost. -2, by the way.
With hunger?
Yes. There is no way that anyone is allowed to defile your friends, your family like this. There's no way that you are going to live without taking her with you. There is no way that this is going to be left to stand. There is nothing but wrongness there in front of you. And that wrongness is all but demanding an immediate response. And while you choke down that rage, there's nothing that you can turn your back on.
Yeah, she's coming off that hook right now. So I will step forward and get her off that hook.
Alex, there's a certain wrongness to the world when seeing this, but there's even more of a reality that this place shouldn't be possible. It is clear that where you are right now isn't where you actually are. And until you interact with that space, it won't be real. And Dizzy steps forward.
Do I recognize any of the markings on the bodies?
Yep, they are runes and sigils. They hold power in and of themselves. That's all that you recognize.
Gotcha.
You know that they are solid and real, but unreal at the same time. Until interacted with, they won't have any effect on you. Whatever their end goal is of the person that put them.
Interacted with.
And Dizzy steps forward into the room, moving towards the green-haired, dreaded woman hanging from one of the hooks. Her destination clear as she bodily moves between the swinging kindred. Diz, strength and athletics roll from the place. Oh. The beast calls out and demands tribute. It demands feeding. It demands, like everything else, it's making demands of you right now, the worst moment possible. And as you grab Valkyrie's legs and lift, there's a moment in every crime, both actual in real life and the real adult life, and crimes that children commit, where there's something that triggers in the pit of your stomach, an awareness that something just changed, that escaping what was coming down the pipe is no longer possible. Both of you all feel that the moment that Diz lifts the woman by her legs to pull her up and off the meat hook, it is as if a trap has been sprung. It is as if your parents have been made aware as to your actions. It is as if the police are breathing down your neck. It is as if the bank alarm has been triggered all at once. And as that feeling settles in, Madame Kuei of the Yin RIn Kuei, who has existed in Chinatown for nearly 100 years, family importing and exporting, being the arbiters and the consigliaries of the various two most powerful tongues in all of Chinatown, who have old men of the mountain still actually in China, to which they answer. Three of her Wu sitting for her. What is it that you all wish to negotiate? I have been instructed that, and she points one curled or gnarled finger with fingernails equally as long as the finger themselves at Clyde. I understand that this one has been unwilling to honor our peace.
Can I make premonition roll?
Yes.
I'm sorry, did I hear that right?
Yes, you did.
Premonition. I think it's manipulation plus suspects, right?
You know, I didn't bother with that cheat sheet. Give me one quick second. That up. Did I put it? There we go. All right. Give me a quick second. It's loading up a little slowly, but there it goes. Why does it have to virus scan documents that is open several
I think it's within not specs.
Resolve an aspects.
Yeah, resolving aspects.
There we go.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misheard and I thought he said a dominate roll.
No, premonition.
That's why I panicked so much.
Alright, so first, rouse check.
Bruh, Lucio really thought Clyde was out here about to try to prank this bitch.
Yes, I did.
All right.
One hunger.
Yes, the beast grows closer to the surface. It's gonna be one of those mornings.
This damn dustboard kept me from eating breakfast.
Oh, nice.
Oh, there are some moments where you wish that success evaded you, because knowing what befalls or what could befall, the likelihood of things is blinding in the sheer ferocity that you have before you. There is a yin-yang symbol that explodes in your vision, except for, instead of it being black with a little bit of white and white with a little bit of black, it is half your coterie with their beasts riding them, and the other half of your coterie who are the beasts with a little bit of their conscience riding them. And as that image takes form and takes shape, you realize that above and around you are dragons in human flesh. And they're waiting on the moment when your phone goes off to breathe unholy fire down upon you. At the head of the table is a pit of darkness that leads nowhere. It leads forward into time and backwards into time, spreading its darkness over the entirety of the city. You see blood and torment in your future. You see Hestia sitting in a quiet place with a curly-haired woman who's about a half a foot taller than her. A little thinner, but she has kind eye. You see Lucio and his older mustached twin shaking hands and enjoying themselves, a small laugh echoing from the two. And you see Sun Che, her mouth and lower portion of her face covered in vitae. Not just in anyone's vitae, in your vitae, as she picks bits and pieces of your skull out of her teeth. You see Diz awash in flame, and Alexander rending and tearing himself through shadow, losing arms and fingers and reaching out towards you. And it is all that you can do to not scream, because you are watching as you know something violent, something deadly, some catastrophe is heading in your direction and you are unable to stop it.
I'm gonna lean over to Hestia and tell her, well, if this isn't a setup, I don't know what it is, but I think that the odds are very much in or against us.
She would have recognized when he dropped into Feminician, right?
That far off look that he gets when he stares into the middle distance
Yeah.
and sees the world around him without seeing it. Oh, yeah.
She's cursing inside her head. She doesn't say it, but she is cursing inside her head. There was a litany going on. But again, remembering where they are and the fact that they are very much surrounded, I need to be able to get back out somehow. She looks towards the woman that had originally had addressed them and said, yes, our associate got a bit excited and stepped over a line, and we freely admit that, and we do apologize that happened, which is why we are here attempting to make amends, because we do not wish problems with Chinatown. So if you would let us know how best to make it so that we all leave here happy this evening, I would appreciate it.
Lucio, you see it before it actually takes root. There are windows just over your left shoulder, and without looking back towards them, without really watching them like a man plotting his escape, you realize that there are stairs down from the balcony behind your host, Madame Kuei. There's a member of the upstairs balcony stares at his phone, and their eyes get big, and a frown settles into place as they bite their inner cheek and begin moving towards those stairs and down to Madame Kuei. You've seen that happen with various other less than legal enterprises where the person in charge doesn't bother to deign themselves needing to keep their own communication, or at least their own modern communication with the world. You've seen that look. That is trouble on its way to be delivered.
I lean in and whisper to Hestia, it looks like we already have some trouble. That guy is about to come down and deliver some bad news.
Clyde, do you look?
He's probably trying to control himself and all the voices in his head that are screaming, get out, get out, get out. So, a little bit lost.
Okay. So you don't watch where Lucio is intending to pointing Hestia's attention.
You know what? I think I might be able to share the senses with the guy with the phone.
So you look and you realize that there's a person with a phone heading towards Madame Kuei. Your vision began with not just a yin yang symbol, but trouble coming via a phone. What do? You have one action. What is it going to be?
Okay. In that case, I say, Lucio, drop the dark.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Drop the darkness.
Right. Lucio is absolutely bewildered by what he's hearing, but considering what's going on, he's not going to do it because that would just be immediate death for them if he just suddenly spawned shadow tentacles. He turns to Klein and says, I can't do that in front of all these people.
Well, Maker, here we come.
And as you say that, the gentleman reaches Madame Kuei, and she glances at the phone and she smiles. How would you like to make amends, dear?
I tell him, well, you wanted my hand, right? If she does it, I am willing to take. I point to Hestia.
I see. And as she says, I see, Valkyrie shouldn't weigh this much. It is almost as if someone is, while as desiccated and fragile as she feels in your clutches, she's deceptively heavy. She's deceptively filled with blood and vitae. And you know that it is a combination of the two because as close as you are able to smell it on her. And it is as if her torpid form is pulling in and still feeding, even though she looks as if she has not fed in the entire time that you all have been separated. Managing to get her up and off the hook causes your heart to break because you realize being this close to her, there is no spark of unlife. There's no ebb of energy that you can detect or denote in her. There's no sign of unlife in her. Her eyes are empty, completely so. They might as well be made of glass. And with her out, without her being on the hook, the other bodies around you, instead of just swaying gently with the push of air from the vent, begin to jerk and spasm. The chains rattling, and you hear footsteps out in the hall.
I will.
Izzy, what did you do?
I will hiss to Alex to save himself. This is my problem, and I will activate my celerity and get the fuck out of this basement.
Okay, it's going to take several blinks. Do you have catch grace to keep so we don't have to roll athletics, or is it just you moving with Valkyrie's corpse?
I do not have catch grace. No.
Okay. So, Alex, you are in the company of Dizzy, and there's anger wafting off of her as if you're standing in front of a blast furnace, and then she's gone.
All right. Well, I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna take a picture of this scene and of the runes as quickly as I can, and then is Blue still around?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's staring with his glasses at the end of his nose, watching the bodies on those hooks between are jerking and spasming and reaching for you both. The fuck is that?
That's not good. That's not good at all. That's not at all good. So as soon as I get those pictures, I'm gonna tell Blue we gotta bolt it and then follow suit with Dizzy's celeritying out of there.
All right, freeze right there. Dizzy, as you make it out of the room, the footsteps that you heard in the hall become apparent. You have 2 successful actions to get out of here. Moving as quickly as you do, report all into speed should not be a huge problem for you. You're going to need to roll dexterity, athletics, adding your celerity, and your total number of successes needs to be 5. The thing that you are immediately aware of once you leave the cooling storage room where Valkyrie was being kept, that desiccation and fullness began fighting. The oozing vitae and blood from her chest begins to powder and chalk, and her clothes suddenly seem a little more spacious, what little bits are left to her.
I'm sorry, was it 1 roll or 2 rolls?
2 rolls. You make it up and out before those closing in on you who are dressed in restaurant attire, the back of the house clothing that you saw, their semblance of a uniform with their smock-like apron, make it to you before they're able to put their hand on you, before they're able to cut off your path of escape. The moment you break out of the back side door of the building, upon reaching the first floor, Valkyrie powders in your hands. You're holding only her clothing, covered in the dried remnants of her vitae. A wisp of hairs, all that's stuck as it has brushed across your face, has somehow managed to remain. You realize 1 + 1 = 11. Those runes and sigils that were carved into her flesh were keeping her flesh whole, provided she remained inside the boundaries of the building.
All right, well, this kind of sucks, but it's what needs to happen. So Dizzy loses it and goes back in that building.
All right. You whirl on your hips, on your heels, allowing your anger to take full control over you. Are you giving yourself over to the beast, or you're attempting to keep that portion at bay? Because you know the beast wants flesh, it wants blood, it wants to rend and tear.
I'll try to ride it as much as I can, but yeah, I'm just letting the anger out.
Everyone is always often fond of saying 2 wrongs don't make a right. But in a world where most things are in fact wrong, the only right is what you are able to tear from it, kicking and screaming. As you realize the world is blurred away in the haze of red, your only goal is to avenge, to make right, to carve some moment of balance from this waste, because that's what it was. That's what this is. This was a crime against you and against everything that you cared for. And this place is allowed to be standing, to operate freely, to be endorsed by the powers that be, because it is too problematic for them to carve out. Alex, you make it to the first floor, because the people who were coming towards the cooler whirl on their heels and head back to attempt to corral and capture Dizzy. You have their backs as a howl and scream of pain erupts from Dizzy as she tears back into the building. And by tear, there is no exaggeration here. The door, which was formerly on its hinges, lies in tatters and shards about her as one hand attempts to reach through the nearest person, while her foot attempts to plant itself on the other, through their chest.
I'm going to send a text to Lucio saying that cover is blown and Dizzy has lost it.
As an aside, I do have lethal body, so I'm just totally fucking everything up that's in my way. So,
yes, there is nothing mortal that can stand to your might. Very few things that are supernatural that will be able to stand up with the combined force and focus of your beast and your pain. As you rend high holy hell from everything within grasp and many things that think that they're just outside of it, Madame Kuei asks you all again, specifically Hestia, as she has been the mouthpiece. She all but ignores you, Clyde, which is a little insulting. After all, it was your faux pas that you're here to correct, your escape, your fact that you didn't allow them to feast on you. Madam, I ask you again, what is it that you are attempting to offer?
She can cut my hand, but we will put it to the fire afterward.
I will offer my choice of a pound of flesh combined between the 3 of us, or from just him. You can choose.
The young lady who's sitting across from the gentleman to Madame Kuei's right leans over and whispers and shows her phone screen. Madame Kuei stands up. You come here under false pretenses? And she points to the people in the balcony and points them at you all.
Take a very deep breath.
Lucio, your phone doesn't just vibrate, it actually sounds an alarm, a klaxon, as Alex's text hits your phone. The jig is up. The goose is cooked. It is over. It is on, or whatever, or a combination of all of the above. And Clyde, one of the voices in your head says, I told you so. It's always about the phone.
I'm gonna say to Lucio, now can you drop it?
You know what? Fuck it. Yes.
And as Lucio taps into the other side, and the room grows colder, the Wan Kuei on the balcony leap off towards you all, and Sun Che, strangely enough, moves to act as an intercept. Robert Kuei and Madam Kuei and Xiao take up positions of defense as a flood of Wan Kuei began pouring in direction. And with the very real threat to our safety, our physical well-being, and continued existence, we will draw to a close and pick up next week. Thank you all for a lovely session. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Bye.
Good night.
Oh man,
I feel so bad for you. I'm sorry.
it's all right. I got some of the objective before